I'd like to call this meeting to order. We acknowledge that the Lutheran Warrior Students Union operates on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people. For regrets, Director Director Dr. Shaw and Director Ruben Officer regrets and Director today. Are there any conflicts of interest? Correct. So let's make a motion.
Yeah, you just have to say you have a conflict of interest for the approval of the operating budgets.
Okay, I thought so, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
Director Michael.
Declare conflict of interest for. What is it called?
Operational budget.
Okay. So Director Gauthier Shaw and Director Rubinoff have sent us their regrets, and Director St. George is absent. And Director A. Jones should be joining us soon.
Oh, they're
not even.
not in the folder? No, then we'll just have to do those next week. So you can amend the agenda.
Amended to get rid of that, so just amended to get rid of the. It doesn't even say anything on the meeting. I think it was from last week, which is correct.
I think there were some coming. We were just.
Okay, so just amended to get rid of the. We'll do that first.
Okay, so can I get a motion to amend the agenda to approve, to remove the meeting minutes approval? Motion by Director Bouquet, seconded by Director Tarek. Any discussion on the matter? No? Okay, we move on to voting. Any opposed? Any abstaining? All those in the group?
Anya.
Okay, and that is motion passes those votes 8. Now, motion to adopt the amended agenda. Any motion by Director Solo, seconded by Director Chair Rizzo. Any discussion on the matter? No. Okay, we'll move on to voting. All those opposed, all those abstaining, and all those approving. Okay, motion passes 0 to 8. Yeah. So. Can I get a motion that the board of directors approve the consent agenda on GP #2B, 2B, GP #2E, and GP #2J, and EL #2A, #2B, 2E, 2M, and 2N. Motion by Director Shatra, seconded by Director Rousseau, Chair Rousseau. Is there any discussion on the matter? We'll move to voting. All those opposed, all those abstaining, and all those who approve.
Still correct.
Oh. 0 to 8. The motion passes. We go to comments from the chair.
Hello, everyone. So, just a couple of things. I've been in touch with Tony on the Brantford campus about organizing a training session for us and the S2 executives. About like networking and like using transferable skills from the board. So I'm just waiting to hear back from him. He said he has the presenter ready for Friday, just the time is to be determined. So it'll probably be sometime in the early afternoon, and I'm just waiting to hear back from him. But I'll send out an email once I have the time. So just keep a heads up for that. And then also the board elect mentorship program, Lulia sent an email with a mentor and mentee pairs. Please reach out to your mentee and schedule a time to meet with them, go over what we do on the board and their role. Yeah, you sent it last week, so everyone should have gotten it. Okay.
So we're going to comments from the president and CPO. Filling in for the president is Sarah Hudson. Hello.
Who for the minutes is here and present at the meeting.
I am.
I'll explain that comment after.
Oh. Give us your comments.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Getting kerfuffled. Okay, so Ben is currently at the athletic banquet presenting an award and will be at the meeting as soon as possible. The biggest priority for the rest of the year is getting signatures on agreements. The first one is the SSA seems to be on track. And hoping to have a final draft for the board and presentation next week. The athletic and rec team memorandum of understanding has been reviewed and is with the Laureate Finance and KPMG team. The SPV for the Stadium Funding Corp memorandum of understanding is with us for review and hoping to bring that to the next week's meeting as well, for the next meeting. And then the Greek Life memorandum of understanding is a work in progress and hope to have something set up for next year. We had a SAC meeting 2 weeks ago to finalize the university budget contributions and to get the operational update from student success. The VP Student Affairs hiring has started. First round interviews are done and next steps start to happen in late April into May. Freedom of expression work continues, now supporting a Freedom to Learn working group. And then transition meeting with the pres-elect and the rest of the incoming team.
Are there any questions?
So for the SPP, I don't know if it's the Greek life one, when are you planning on, are we getting them sent to us or are you going to put it to the next board? Like for the next. Will it be done by next week or no?
As of right now, I don't think it will be done for next week. I think there's still a work in progress, but we'll do them, have an update shortly, and if not, it's next.
Is it fine if it's next year?
Yeah, I mean, we're way ahead of schedule for that anyways, based on the last couple of years. I think that Ben and I talked about it a little bit this morning. The agreement between Greeks and us is almost done. We're just waiting for the university to kind of play their part. So theoretically, it might even be available for next week. Emphasis on the word month.
I was just wondering if it mattered if we had to approve it.
No, I don't think so.
Next year.
So moving on to comments from the executive director and COO.
Well, that's me. I've been away for 2 weeks, so I don't really have any updates, but today was fun.
Great.
But yeah, another fire alarm. We look forward to seeing the fire department back at Fred Nichols Campus Center next week.
Yeah, I literally ordered food, but it went off on like whatever day, Wednesday or something. I literally ordered food at the food court and then it went off. I had to like leave and then like wait like 20 minutes until it shut off and then went back in and everything still cooking my food.
Everything about that tracks.
It was like, this is crazy. How's the health and dental?
So to the best of my knowledge, they've done 2 out of 3 sessions. Or what? We've done 3 of 3. Oh, it is student care? Okay, and they've done 3 of 3, so Kelly's back to work tomorrow. And so it was my intent to kind of talk to them. I was only gonna attend one of those sessions, which I ended up not being able to attend. Due to family stuff, and so I have had no part in any of the sessions, so I don't really answer that question.
Is it supposed to be ready for us to look over or next year?
It's my hope that the committee will be able to kind of get together and make their recommendation. You be able to.
I would
Oh, yeah,
say
it's super
again, might, because everything seems to be, we've had our debrief, all 3 of the meetings have happened. So, yeah, I think everything should be, like, from my perspective, my part is done.
Okay,
So debrief about it has happened and we've all kind of, chosen like, someone will think great, but I don't know anything past that. So it should be soon.
at the very least, we'll be able to provide an update next week.
Yeah.
At the very best, a recommendation would be my guess,
Yeah.
but I won't know until tomorrow.
Who's like, oh, I guess Kelly's the one who like.
She's the one leading the process, so
Oh.
she's the administrator of that program.
Oh,
Thank you. And now we move on to the ownership committee final report from Director Pekka.
Yeah, so, I don't really know what to say as an update for this one. I didn't have much to update for this past month. So it was mostly an overview of what the committee has done, over, our board term. And I mostly talked about, what our goals were and what we felt we'd accomplished as a committee. And the different type of booths we done and what the themes were. And,
You can just approve that you received it.
just a little.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, motion that the board of directors, will receive the final ownership report committee. Do I have a motion? Okay, directed by, motion by Director Tarek, any seconders? Second by Director Nakshatra. Any discussion on the matter? Then we move on to voting. Any opposed? Any abstaining? All those who approve? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Motion passes 0-0 to 9. Thank you. That's my first. All right, now moving on to Director Inspection Committee report. Oh. Okay, now moving on to policy manual amendment. Presented by me.
Yeah, so as you'll remember, during the Students' Union election, the students passed a referendum to change some language with the Constitution. That was required because as we move towards a reality where Milton students will become our members, there's obviously some campus-specific language in some of our documentation, so we cleaned up the Constitution one in January. There are 3 policies in the policy manual, which is the purview of the board to approve, that need to be changed. Again, I would say this is kind of an interim change until Milton students are firmly on board. So it doesn't necessarily alter the way anything is happening currently, but it doesn't put overly onerous expectations for the board from a Milton perspective quite yet. So the 3 changes that being recommended, the first is in governance process number 2A7 right now. It has be accessible to all members by attending no less than 2 regular and scheduled board meetings per year in each city that the students' union operates. So the recommendation here is to change it to be accessible to all members by ensuring that all board meetings are streamed live or recorded. So that doesn't eliminate the ability for the board to go to both Brantford and Larkin campuses, but until we have some other things sorted out, this doesn't obligate the board to go to Milton, which would not be feasible at the moment. But it still allows Milton students, should they wish to watch the live stream or to watch a recording. The second is 2G1, GP2G1, and that's a membership of committee. So it's again changing language from reserving 1 spot for a representative from each campus, changing that language slightly to reading 1 spot reserved representative from the Brantford campus. And then finally, in GP2G3, a similar change. The current language reads 2 students at large, with 1 being from each campus. And the recommended change there is to 2 students at large, with 1 each being from the Brantford and Larkin campuses. Again, these are board policies, so the board can change them relatively easily. So will not be onerous once we have more active Milton students to be able to make a further amendment to include.
So Milton students will be coming first, yes.
I don't think it's been determined yet, but
Oh.
we're basically getting all of our governance processes set up, so when they become that, there's nothing that's immediately out of date or not. This should give us maximum flexibility.
Is there any questions on the matter?
Right, she's an equalist and all.
Yeah, that's fine, there's the briefing notes in the,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
this is just the motions list, some of the changes that you're.
Yeah.
So can I get a motion that the board of directors approve the following amendments to the policy manual? Motion by Director So, and seconded by Director Laheka. Is there any discussion on the matter? Okay, we'll go on to voting. Any opposed? Any abstaining? And all those who approve. There you go. Okay, motion passes 0-0 to 9. Okay, now moving on to the Director Special Committee reports. Okay, I was the chair of the EL2L, General Meeting and Elections, and the BND #2D3 monitoring executive performance. We found that the board was complying to all of the policies and they were all up. So no changes in the plan. Motion to approve the reports. Can I get a motion to approve the reports? Motion by Dr. Laheka, seconded by Dr. Nakshatra. Is there any discussion on the matter? No? Okay. So we now move on to voting. Any opposed? Any abstaining? No votes to approve. Okay, motion passes 0-0 to 9. Okay, now moving on to the governance budget, we have.
He's teacher, he's on there. Chris, you're up.
So loud.
Hi, everyone. In your, I don't know who's in control, if someone could share this on the screen or not, but there's 2 individual budgets in your package that you are required to approve separately from the main budgets, and these are the Board of Directors budget and the elections budget. Because these are the budgets of the board, we've separated those out for you to approve. So if we looked at the Board of Directors budget to start, you'll see the total budget for next year. So this is starting in May and running till next April. So 25-26. The total expense budget for the board is a little bit over $20,000, $20,055. Compared to 27.5 the previous year. The elections budget is fairly close to last year's budget. This year it's 15,300 in total compared to $16,134 previously. I won't go through the line by line items that make up those totals for both budgets, and I'll open it up to questions. I may not be the best person to address any answers for those 2 budgets. So maybe Phil, you can step in if there are questions, but I'll leave it at that for those 2 budgets. Doesn't look like there's any questions, so I think you're free to make your motion for those, I guess.
Board of Directors and the motion. Motion that, can I have a motion that the board of directors approve the revenue budget of 2025-26? Motion by Director Laheka, seconded by Director Bhuket. Is there any discussion on the matter? No? Okay, we now move on to voting. Any opposed? Any abstaining? And all those who approve? Motion passes. Director Clark, do you have a option? No.
So now the operating budget.
Can I get a? No. Oh, okay. Now, the operating budget.
So we'll move on now to the much larger operating budget. So just so everyone on the board is aware, those two budgets that you just approved, the board and elections budget, those numbers are included in this larger budget. So there's 6 or 7 pages of documents related to the budget for next year, and I'll just quickly go through those. The first one is a summary of the entire budget by categories of revenue and expenses. So on that document, you will see that the total revenue budget for next year is proposed at $13,122,214, and that's up roughly 190 to 100,000 from the previous budget. The total expenses budgeted for next year, including principal on loan repayments that we still have outstanding, are also $13,122,214. So we are presenting tonight to the board a balanced budget for next year. So when I said that first budget is summarized by category, I just got a request to share my screen. So let me see if I can do this here. Can everyone see that? So you'll see a total, as I said, of revenue of 13,122,000. That revenue, just to summarize briefly, it's mostly our fees that we collect from students. So you'll see a number of fees down the side, like the campus safety fee, the health and wellness fee, the recreation fee, etc. Our building fees that we receive from students as well. So there's an FNCC fee, and there's a Brantford Student Center fee that's included in here. In the other section, other fees, the other big is the health and dental fees that we receive from students to run the health and dental plan. And then pretty much the other revenue is our hospitality revenue we get from running hospitality services on both campuses. So that's your revenue total. There's a few other things mixed in there as well. On the expense side, the majority of our expenses, not the majority, but the largest component of our expenses are the health and dental claims that are paid out to students that are in part of the plan. Salaries, wages, and benefits make up a large component of our total costs. Just a reminder to those on the board, we employ over 100, and I think last time I looked, just slightly over 100 students over the course of the year. Those two are the biggest components of the budget. Cost of goods sold, which is all the food and beverage costs related to hospitality services, and programming costs. So that's your costs related to O-Week or any concerts or any programming we do throughout the year. So that's the first document that summarized the budget by category. I'll now share the next component of our budget, which, I can find it here. This summarizes the, sorry, just 1 second. Can everyone see that now? Summary by department. So this is the exact same numbers, just shown to you in a slightly different format. So if I go all the way down to the bottom on the second page, you'll see we've budgeted total revenues for next year of 13,122,000, total expenses of 13,122,000. But instead of summarized by categories, this is summarized by department. So you'll see if I go back up to the top, the two budgets that you just approved for board of directors and elections, you'll see how this table works is that for next year, we've proposed a board of directors budget of $20,056, an elections budget of $15,300, so a total governance budget of $35,356, which you just approved, compared to last year's budget of $43,705. So it's $8,350 less than the previous year. And you can see that for each section. So there's a leadership budget, there's a budget summarized by internal operations, governance and stakeholder relations, clubs and associations, programming and services Waterloo, programming and services Brantford, marketing, hospitality, and everything else, which is a lot of the fees. So same budget, just presented in a slightly different format. The third format I will show you, just so you know, is we've also summarized your budget by ends. So the organization has 4 ends or objectives, I guess, for the organization. You see those 4 listed here. And then what we've done is we've summarized, so that same pot of money, that same 13,100,000 is split amongst the 4 ends. So you'll see the largest piece of the pie here is products and services that cater to the financial needs of students. So the health and dental plan, a lot of the fees roll up under those sections, and that's why it's the largest. So again, same numbers, just a different way of summarizing those for you. And then 2 other documents that I wanted to share, actually 1 other. What we've done with the budget is we have pulled out particular purchases that we will do over the course of the year that have expenditures of over $10,000. We're required to show these specifically to the board. So just let me share that. We just call this the 10K list. So you'll see it's a big, fairly long list of a number of things that we're going to spend money on over the course of the year that are greater than $10,000. And for example, the first one, clubs and associations, campus clubs and associations fund. This is the pot of money, $150,000 that we allocate as budget money to each one of the different clubs. So we give each club a small portion of that 150,000. The one I did want to point out on this list, which is a little different than other years, is we have identified over $400,000, and it's called here the FNCC Building Reserve Fund. That's a request to the board to set aside $404,370 for the air handler project, which will still be ongoing next year. And this is just a way for us to set aside a portion of the costs for our share of that project as part of our budget building process. You may ask how I came to that $404,370. I just, in order to get our overall budget to a balanced position, that was the number that we had left over and available for this specific project. So again, there's a long list of items there of 10K expenditures, nothing out of the norm from any other year other than the building reserve amount that I just pointed out. And same for the overall budget. Nothing really out of the ordinary or different than any other year. Just carried over our projected activities and services and programming and everything that we've done currently to the next year and adjusted it for inflationary costs. So I'll stop at that point and open it up to any questions if anybody has any questions on the budget presented to you tonight.
Questions on the matter? Chair Russo?
I was just wondering what there's $200,000 revenue under leadership for executive director. What is that?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, so under the leadership, under executive director, there's $200,000 in revenue.
Oh, that is, so we have, it's actually a good news item because we actually have cash in the bank. We earn interest on that money. So it's just our estimate of what our interest income from the bank will be on money that we have set aside.
Okay. And then that level or that category got $40,000 increase in expenses. Is there a reason for that?
In what particular line in the leadership budget?
Yeah, executive director.
Yeah, that we set aside a little bit more money this year because it is the 50th anniversary of the Students' Union. So we plan on doing some events, programming, swag related to that we wouldn't normally have budgeted in previous years. So if you turn your attention also to that 10K list, you'll see on that list that there's 2 lines in there somewhere for merchandise related to the 50th anniversary and for events. So while we don't have anything specifically planned out just yet, and we're working through that whole process, we obviously needed to set aside some money for those, and this is our best estimate at that time.
Okay. Also, just looking at the hospitality ones, is there a reason why the Belmont expenses decreased?
So this year that we're just finishing up right now was the first year of full operations for the Belmont. So when we set last year's budget, it was our best guess at the time without having a full year's worth of historical information to help us set the budget. Now that we've got that, we're able to set a budget that we think reflects activity in Brantford for the Belmont over the course of the year. So that reduction is just basically a better reflection of what we think the actual expenses will be next year.
Is that the same with the Golden Grounds one too, why their revenue is lower?
Yeah, well, Golden Grounds has been around for a while. One of the things we were concerned about was that the Belmont might potentially take away some sales from Golden Grounds that we would have seen in the previous year, and we think there's a little bit of that, but not too much overall. So yes, that's a reflection of the actuals.
Also, under the other category, I was just wondering what international news is.
finance.
So, yeah, so we lease out that space to the franchisee, so that's a reflection of the lease payments. And the expenses are some of the costs that we as the leaseor have to incur for running that space for them as part of the lease agreement.
Questions? Can I get a motion to approve the operating budget? Okay, motion by Chair Rousseau, there, seconded by Director Ejon. Is there any discussion on the matter? Okay, we will now move on to voting. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Sorry. And all those who approve? Okay, motion passes 017. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And can I have a motion to move into an in-camera session with me and the board secretary? Motion by Chair Russo, and seconded by Director Ejon. Any discussion on the matter? Okay, now we go to voting. Any opposed? All those abstaining? And all those who. Motion passed.